this is Michaela from Team Retro, where we like retro games, we like roguelikes, and we like the devices that bring them to us. So in my last video, I talked about the potential of a wedge-shaped 2DS as a retro gaming device, and after I made that video, I got so excited about the thought of playing on a 2DS again that I actually went out in search of a second 2DS wedge. Now, the first one I got off of GameStop, but it was really scratched up and it just didn't look good. So I actually returned that one and I got this refurbished Zelda edition off of eBay. And I'm already in love with it. I love the green and yellow colors, and there's actually a brown stripe on the back to match Link's belt, and the stylus itself is also brown like Link's belt. So this is a really nice system, and it came in excellent condition. But enough of my swooning. The actual reason I purchased this system was so that I can walk you through how to go from a stock 2DS or 3DS to custom firmware to where you can unlock the full potential of this device, to where you can emulate Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and you can even throw DS and 3DS ROMs, and you could play a ton of games just on this one device. Now, this is going to be kind of a long video because I'm going to take you from stock to custom firmware step by step. There's a lot of prep work here, so let's just dive in and let's get started. So when you first turn on your 2DS or 3DS, you're going to have to go through the initial setup process and you're going to have to get yourself to the home screen. Now, it may seem weird, but in order to install custom firmware on this 2DS, we actually need to make a Mii character. So go ahead and go into the Mii Maker, and you could just make a generic Mii, or you could do what I did and actually made one that is kind of like me. Now, once you've done that, we're going to go into the friend list, and we're just going to make sure that our friend notification settings are set to off. That's just to keep from communicating with Nintendo servers. Now, the 2DS only came with a 4GB memory card, so we're going to use the SanDisk 128GB Extreme to expand the storage. We're going to use GUI format on the computer to format it as FAT32. I'll include a link to GUI format in the description. Now, once you've done that, go ahead and pop the SD card into the 2DS, and we'll continue the next step. Now, I'm using the website 3ds.hacks.guide by Phylect, and the best way to put custom firmware on this 3DS is using the Seedminer method. So in order to do that, we have to make sure that we are running the latest version of the Nintendo firmware. So we're going to go back to the 2DS, and we're going to do that now. On the 2DS, let's go into the System Settings app and Internet Settings, Connection Settings, New Connection, Manual Setup, and search for an access point. At this point, you will connect to your Wi-Fi, put in the password if needed, and once your password is in, it will perform a connection test just to make sure that the DS can connect to the internet. Now let's go to Other Settings, go all the way to the right, and we're going to select System Update. Go ahead and click OK, and go ahead and accept. Don't worry about the AC adapter. If you have enough battery, it will download just fine. When your 3DS is done updating, it will restart. At this point, go ahead and power off your 2DS and plug the SD card into your computer. We're going to start to do some prep work in order to get a movable.sed file that we're going to need in order to set up our jailbreak. On the root of the SD card, there should be a Nintendo 3DS folder, and if you go into that, you're going to see a folder with a bunch of letters and numbers. So we're actually going to click Rename, and then we're going to copy that string of letters and numbers. We're going to need it for one of the next steps. What I did was I opened up a blank notepad file and I pasted that string of text into the notepad file and I saved it in my downloads folder as 2ds key.txt. And keep that text file handy for the remainder of this guide. Now go ahead and put the SD card back in the 2DS and power it on. Then on your computer, if you're following the 3DS guide, you're going to open this site called Brute Force Movable. Now make sure your 2DS is connected to the internet because the first thing that we're actually going to need from the system is the 2DS friend code that's associated with the Mii that we created earlier. So let's head back to the 2DS and let's go back into the friend list application. And if you go to your friend card that has the Mii that you created earlier, then if you look at the top screen, you'll see the friend code right there. So that's the first number that we're actually going to need. So while your 2DS is still running and on this friend code list, head back over to Brute Force Movable on the computer and go ahead and type in your friend code. Once you've done that, in the second box, you're going to need those string of numbers and letters that we copied to this notepad file earlier. So let's select those, click copy, and paste it right into the website in the second box. Then go ahead and click the green Go button. What it's actually going to do here is it's going to generate a friend code that we need to add to our friends list on the 2DS system itself. So leave this tab open on your computer with the scroll bar running, and while that's there, we're going to head back to the 2DS and we're going to add this number. On the top right of the bottom screen, go ahead and click that smiley face with the plus sign and click Internet. Now we're going to type in that friend code exactly as it shows on the Brute Force Movable webpage. And it's going to say that you're now friends with Black99, so go ahead and leave your 2DS on this screen while Brute Force Movable works its magic. And actually be patient here. Try not to refresh the page or start over because it could take up to 5 minutes for the website to actually show progress. But once it does, you're going to see the list of steps of what it's doing. It's going to tell you to wait, and then you're going to get a green download movable.sed button. Once you get that, go ahead and click it, and it's going to download the unique movable.sed for your device. And once you have that file, you could go back to your friends list and you can delete the Black99 friend card because you don't need it on there after you've gone through this step. Who needs friends anyways? Now the guide lists the recommended version of Pixhacks, but that requires downloading Pokemon Picross, which is a free download from the eShop, but I wanted to avoid signing into the eShop at all with this 3DS, so we're going to actually use the Banner Bomb 3 method. And it's not the recommended method, it's probably a few more steps than the Pixhacks method, but it's still equally as effective, and then you don't have to waste time signing into the eShop. So what we're actually going to do is in the guide, we're going to click the Banner Bomb 3 DSiWare extractor, and it's going to ask for the movable.sed folder that we just downloaded in the last step. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select that on this page, and we're going to select Build and Download. And we're going to get a Banner Bomb 3.zip file, and that's going to have a hacked DSiWare save file that we're going to need to put on our 3DS. So with our system once again powered off and our SD card once again plugged into our computer, let's go ahead and move those files over. So let's first go into the Nintendo 3DS folder and let's go into the subfolders until we get to extra data. Go ahead and create a new folder in the same directory as the extra data folder and name it Nintendo DSi Where. And make sure you capitalize exactly where I am capitalizing. Back in our downloads folder, we're going to go ahead and extract the bannerbomb3.zip. And we're going to copy the bin file that's inside there right into this DSiWare folder that we just created on the SD card. Alright, now that that's done, let's go ahead and eject the SD card and let's plug it back into our DS system. So here we are back in the system. Let's go back into System Settings. And this time we're going to go into Data Management. Go to DSiWare and go to SD card. At this point, the system is going to turn purple, and then it's actually going to crash and prompt you to restart. This is actually okay. This means that the tool actually did its job. Once the system restarts, go ahead and power it down again, and we're going to put the SD card back in the computer. You could tell the last step is successful if on the SD card next to the Nintendo 3DS folder, there's actually a bin file. Now before we go any further, let's go back into that DSiWare folder, and let's go ahead and delete the file that we just utilized. If we leave the file in there every time you go to DSiWare in the data management section of the settings, it will continue to crash the system, so we don't need it there anymore. Now let's download some more files from the guide. Let's download Frogminer. We're also going to download B9S tool. And we're going to download Luma 3DS. And once all these files are downloaded, we're going to make sure our 2DS is powered down, our SD card is plugged in, and we're going to move those files to the SD card. In the Luma 3DS folder, we're going to move both files to the root of the SD card. In the release 6.0.1, you're going to take the boot.nds and you're going to put that on the root of the SD card as well. In the Frogminer folder, you're going to take the private folder and you're going to move that to the root of the SD card. Back in the guide, let's go ahead and open Fred tool in a new tab. Again, for the first box, we're going to need to select our movable.sed. It should still be in the downloads folder if you left it there from before. Then we're going to select the bin file from the root of the SD card, and we're going to click Verify Files. Then finally, build and download, and it's going to download another zip file that we're going to need. On the SD card, we're going to navigate to the Nintendo 3DS folder, and we're going to click through until we get back to that Nintendo DSiWare folder. Now the Fred tool folder has an output folder, and it has clean and hacks. We're going to need both of them, but for now, let's take the bin from the hacks file, and let's copy that right into the Nintendo DSiWare folder on the SD card. Go ahead and eject the SD card, plug it back into the DS, and power it on. Now we're going to go back into System Settings. And we're going to go back into Data Management. Select DSiWare, same as before. Select SD card, same as before. And you're going to find a file called hacks. Let's go ahead and click that. And then we're going to copy it to the internal memory. Now let's go back to the main menu of System Settings. And let's go into Internet Settings and Nintendo DS Connections. Go ahead and click OK. And what's actually going to happen here is we're going to end up running the Japanese DS version of Flipnote. And this is where things get a little bit tricky because we have to navigate the menus and they're all written in Japanese. So unless you can read Japanese, you're going to struggle here, but it's all right. I'm going to walk you through which buttons to push. Let's start by hitting this button at the bottom twice. Then click the right hand. Click OK. Click the bottom orange button again. Click it again. And click the left button with the Japanese characters. Click the left button again. Click OK. Click OK again. And then click OK again. Now let's click this left box. And hold tight here for a minute until the SD button lights up and is selectable. Once it lights up, go ahead and click it. Click the face. And click this bottom right button. Now we're actually going to press up on the D-pad. And press this film button at the top. Now press right on the D-pad twice until it says 3 out of 3. Click the third option that looks like a copy button. Press left on the D-pad twice till you're back at 1 of 3. Now click this button on the right that looks like a paste button, and you are in the Boot 9 strap install menu. That Flipnote part was a little daunting, so I'll put a link to a video guide in the description. But for now, let's go ahead and install Boot 9 strap. And let's press start and select at the same time to confirm and commit. Once it's done, go ahead and press home to exit. Now instead of booting us to the home screen, it's actually going to boot us to the Luma 3DS menu. The only thing we want to do here is click the option using the D-pad and the A button to show NAND or user string in system settings. And that's it. You can leave everything else the same. You could press the start button to save and to reboot the system. And once you're back to the main 3DS or 2DS menu, you actually have custom firmware installed. But we need to do a few other things just to make sure that this installation is finalized. So go ahead and power down the unit and put the SD card back into the computer. And let's restore that DSiWare file. So let's go back into the DSiWare folder, and we're going to go back into the Fred tool folder, and we're going to go to Output, and we're going to go to Clean, and we're going to overwrite the hacks bin file with the clean bin file. That will restore some DS functionality to our system. Now let's download our Custom Firmware starter kit programs. And we're going to download these as CIA files. So let's start with Anemone 3DS, Checkpoint Save Manager, Universal Updater, Homebrew Launcher Wrapper, God Mode 9, you're going to download the zip file here. DSP1, now for FBI, you need both the CIA and the 3DS file. We're basically going to use one to install the other. And finally, the 3DSX file of CTR no time offset. Let's create a new folder in the root of the SD card and title it 3DS. No caps or spaces, just 3DS. And in that folder, we're going to put the CTR no time offset 3DSX file, and we're also going to put the FBI 3DSX file right in that 3DS folder we just created on the SD card. Back in the root of the SD card, we're going to create another folder, and we're going to title it CIAs. And let's go ahead and put all the CIA files that we downloaded right into that folder. So we'll start with DSP1, FBI, Homebrew Launcher, Universal Updater, Checkpoint, and then finally Anemone 3DS. Let's go back to the root of the SD card and let's go into the Luma folder. Create a new folder here and name it Payloads. And go ahead and open up that folder once you've created it. In the godmode 9 zip file, go ahead and add godmode9.firm to the Payloads folder. Then in that same zip file, you're going to take the GM9 folder and you're going to add that to the root of the SD card. And that's it. Let's plug the SD card back into the DS and let's turn it on. This time we're going to open up the DS Download Play app. Once you're in the app, press down, L, and select at the same time to bring up the Luma menu. And once that menu pops up, we're actually going to scroll down to Miscellaneous Options. And switch the HB title to the current app. And then press B to exit the menu until you're back in the regular Download Play application. Press Home to close the app, then press Close, and then we're actually going to relaunch the same app again. Except this time, it's going to open up the Homebrew launcher. And first thing we're going to open up is the CTR no time offset. We're just going to let this program run really quick. And go ahead and press A to set the offset to 0. Once you get the success message, go ahead and press Start to exit this program, and it should take you right back to the Homebrew launcher. Now let's go ahead and launch FBI. Once it's open, navigate to SD. It's the first option on the bottom screen. Then go to the CIAs folder that we created on the computer, and then click Current Directory, which is the first option. Go ahead and click Install and Delete all CIAs. This will install these programs, and then it will delete the extra CIAs from the SD card to save space. Press A to confirm, yes, you want to install all the CIAs, and then let them install. It should only take a few minutes. Then go ahead and hit the home button and close out. And you're going to see all of these homebrew applications have actually been added as presents on the menu. So let's actually open up the DSP1 application. And then just go ahead and let this application do its thing. And when it's done, go ahead and press the B button and it will exit and delete the application. You won't need it anymore after this. Let's go ahead and power down our unit. And now we're going to hold the start button and we're going to power the unit back on while holding that start button. And here we are in God Mode 9. The first thing it's going to do is ask you to create a backup file. So let's go ahead and click A to confirm, and we're going to do that. Once it's done, click A to continue. It's going to tell you the RTC date and time seems to be wrong, and to set it now, click Yes to set it now. We did this earlier with that DSP1 app. And the CTR no offset app. It's to equalize the system time and the RTC time. So go ahead and take a minute and set this to the correct date and time. Then go ahead and press A to continue once you've set the time. And here we are in the God Mode 9 main menu, but first thing we're going to do in this menu is actually press the home button to go into some miscellaneous options. And we're going to go into scripts first. Then click GM9 Megascript. Then go down to scripts from FileX Guide. And we're going to set up Luma 3DS to CTR NAND. So that way you don't need an SD card to boot into custom firmware. It'll just automatically do it. Go ahead and unlock and then enter the button combination to commit and to copy this over. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the SD card. Go ahead and click Yes to confirm and go ahead and click A to continue. When that's done, go ahead and click B to go to the previous menu, and we're going to click Backup Options. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to do a SysNAND backup. That's in case anything goes wrong with your DS in the future, you can actually restore from this backup. So go ahead and click Yes. And this is going to take a little bit of time, so this is a good time to go get a quick cup of coffee or use the bathroom. And come back and check on the DS when it's done, and we'll be ready for the next step. Alright, now that we're back, go ahead and click A to continue once your SysNAND is completely backed up. And we're going to back up a couple more things here. So let's go back one more, pressing B. And now let's go into dump options. And here we're going to dump boot 9 and boot 11, and those are also going to go into the GM9 out section of our SD card. Go ahead and click A to continue, and we're actually done here. We can go back to the main menu of God Mode 9, and we can go ahead and click Exit. Click Yes to relock the write permissions. And now we're just going to scroll down using the D-pad, and we're going to go into SysNAND Virtual. And we're going to scroll down to this essential.exefs file. Go ahead and click A once you get there. And then we're just going to copy it to gm9/out. And again, that's just in case something does go wrong down the line and you need to restore from a NAND backup. It may say that the file already exists. If it does, just go ahead and overwrite it. Then press Home and go to Reboot System, and it will reboot right into the main 3DS menu. Phew, that was a lot. We've been at this for a little over half an hour, but that's it. We're done. Following this guide, your 2DS or 3DS system should now have custom firmware on it, and it should have some of the homebrew applications necessary to get you started. I will go in depth on some of those applications in a future video, but right now, I just wanted to get you from stock to custom firmware, and then we're gonna, in future videos, dive deeper into this and see what this system really can do. Thank you so much for watching. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.